Hello, everyone, and welcome to the RV Show. My name is Vinay.
And my name is Rohan. Surprisingly, our first story today is not actually about the presidential election. It's about something far worse, the coronavirus pandemic. Today, we're going to talk about the three key vaccines that are actually making a lot of progress. The first is by Pfizer and BioNTech. New York based Pfizer is teaming up with the German BioNTech company to create a vaccine that's currently in combined phases 2 and 3, which is pretty far along. The efficacy rate is between 62 and 90%, depending on the dosage. So, which means the average was about 70.4%, but they've reported as high as 90%. The vaccine type is an mRNA vaccine, which means that it delivers like one or more of the coronavirus's own genes into our cells to provoke an immune response. The doses required are two for this vaccine. What's interesting about this vaccine, however, is the storage. It can be stored for 5 days in a refrigerator, or it needs to be stored at -70 degrees for long-term storage, and that will be pretty important later on. The projected cost for this vaccine is also $20 per dose, and if you require two doses, that can add up to a lot of money. The second vaccine is the Moderna vaccine. The efficacy rate for this was 94.5%, obviously much higher than other vaccines. The vaccine type is also an mRNA vaccine like the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. The doses required are two, and the seems to be a lot better than the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine, which is 30 days in a refrigerator or 6 months at -20 degrees Celsius. So while long-term storage might be harder, initial storage in the refrigerator might be easier. The cost, however, is much higher. It's $32 to $37. And that's going to be pretty important when we look to the future because despite efficacy rates, vaccines still need to be affordable for a vast majority of people. This vaccine, by the way, is in phase 3 efficacy trials, which is farther than the other two vaccines. And it's even gotten nearly $1 billion in support from the National Institute of Health. So the US is pretty much funding this one. The final vaccine is the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. This one is made by British-Swedish company AstraZeneca and the University of Oxford. This one is also in combined phases 2 and 3, like the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine. And this one seems like it's a lot better for a couple of reasons. So first, the efficacy rate is similar to the Pfizer BioNTech efficacy rate. Which is like 62% to 90%, depending on the dosage. Like the average for this one was 70.4%, which is a lot lower than the Pfizer BioNTech, which was in the 90s. Um, the doses required are 1.5, and storage is 5 days in a refrigerator or -70 degrees for long-term storage. And the cost is $3 to $4, which is a lot lower. And that's going to be really important because the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine appears to be a little bit more accessible to people in the United States. All three vaccines are ready to ramp up production and distribution to the billions by 2021. This information is from Axios and New York Times between November 24th and 27th, respectively. So, Vinay, how do you think Joe Biden and his cabinet will have an effect on vaccine distribution?
I think one of the things that you mentioned is that the more pricey vaccine, Moderna, was actually gained funding from the National Institute of Health. I'm not sure how much control Trump and his cabinet had over that, but I'm sure they had a role in that vaccine production gain more funding. But I think a potential thing that could happen when Joe Biden becomes the president is that he finds way to fund even the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine because that one has a much lower cost and he'll be able to reach out to all of his supporters, even the poor, blacker um, supporters that he has. So I think that while it might not be too big of an impact from presidency to presidency, as the vaccines are almost already ready, I have a feeling that Joe Biden will push for the cheaper vaccines to have higher distribution in many different areas across the US.
Yes. I completely agree with you. I just want to say a quick clarification. The Pfizer BioNTech efficacy rate actually got up to 95%, which is higher than the Moderna 94.5%. So that's another thing to consider, despite its like high price and its poor storage. Um, so I guess like I completely agree with your points. What I would say is that it's not going to be a lot about like funding, like which like vaccine gets more funding. I think it's going to be more about how the vaccines are distributed through the United States, because I think they're first, both presidents are going to have like different like chains of like
Priorities.
responding, responding in different chains of like distribution. um Especially because like we know that like Trump has said already that he has like the military lined up to like distribute across like the United States, and I'm not sure what Biden is going to do about that, especially because we know a majority of the distributions are only going to happen in 2021 once these vaccine companies actually get billions and billions of dosages that they can distribute. So if it's only going to
Mhm.
happen in 2021, it's going to be interesting to see how Biden is going to end up handling the distribution.
Yeah, I don't think Trump will have much of a say. Like, I'm sure he already had a plan in place. I don't think, unless Biden implements his plan, which I doubt because they're political rivals, I think that this is going to be more on Biden on getting the vaccines out to the American public. And I don't think Trump will have any
Right,
impact whatsoever on the distribution of vaccines
right.
in 2021.
So I think Trump has had a pretty big part in the development, but Biden will have a bigger part in the distribution.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think we'll be in lockdown like throughout the school year, for instance, and even later?
Well, that's a tough question. I think since we're more privileged than, say, maybe public school people, if it does in fact come out that the Moderna vaccine is the first one out and that it's just people that have the most money can buy them, then I have a feeling that our school, since it's a private school, might be able to get back into schools faster than maybe public schools. But I do think that overall, it's still going to probably take until the next school year, for most of the schools in this country to actually go back to in-person learning rather than online learning.
Right. I think I don't think like when they actually like release the vaccines, it's going to be based off like whether people can afford it. And like right now, they give you this like base price. Like for instance, the Moderna is the priciest one, $32 to $37. I think that like
Mm-hmm.
once they actually release the vaccine, I'm not sure if they're going to give allowances to people, because it's not like the
That's true.
country can just leave its people in the dark and give like vaccines to half of the Americans and then leave half the Americans
Yeah, that's
without vaccination. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. Um,
true. Mm-hmm.
but what I see is that because we go to a private school, I actually feel like there's a lower chance we're going to be back, especially this school year. I'm almost certain we're going to be done for this school year. But I feel like there's a lower chance we're going to be back because, unlike a public school, we have the resources to stay online.
That's also true. Yeah.
So there's less of a need for us to go back to school. But I guess we'll just have to see.
I think it depends on the school that you go to, because I
Yeah.
know that there's some private schools which are content with just staying online and prioritizing the safety, whereas other schools are saying, I'm not sure if this online education is actually helping many of our students. So, in one way, like I understand that we might have uh, more infrastructure to be able to be fully online. But I think that if a vaccine does come out and a good amount of our student population gets it or receives it, I think that they're going to at least push to at least go hybrid by the time that comes out.
Right. Um, do you think that these vaccines have only been like driven by profits, or do you think these companies are seriously ready to help the people?
So that's also a tough question because obviously the vaccine isn't out and available for the public, so we're not completely sure. what price they're actually going to be selling this at. But if it is at the given prices, I, I don't know. This is something which is all about how much trial, how much money each of these companies put in. And to be frank, we don't even have the numbers on how much. Like on the surface, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which is only $3 to $4, seems like it's prioritizing the health of the American people or just the human population as a whole over, say, the Moderna vaccine, which costs over $30. At the same time, we don't know how much testing there's been, how costly it has been, and whether the prices are just for these companies to even break even or to actually get like a larger amount of profit.
Right. I completely agree with you on that point. Obviously, Oxford AstraZeneca has a much lower cost than the other two. I just think it's really telling that like once Pfizer and BioNTech released like that they made a lot of progress and were in combined phases 2 and 3, like Moderna, Oxford AstraZeneca immediately like kind of came out within the next week and a half, saying that like
Mhm.
we also have made a lot of progress. We're right on pace with you guys. Because like it really shows like how like right now like the U.S. market is driven um, by competition in like the private sector rather than an actual strive to help others.
That's true.
Then again, the fact that Oxford AstraZeneca has such a low price kind of shows that they're willing to make this a like not for profit vaccine. So we're
Mhm.
really going to have to see, because in the end, like even though like Oxford AstraZeneca has the lower prices, it also had the lower efficacy rates out of both of them. Like as in like the other two like got into the 90s, and Oxford AstraZeneca
Mhm.
was 90% max and averaged at 70.4%.
Mhm.
So there's pros and cons to each one.
Yeah, I think that the efficacy rate has a big role on what the price is actually going to be. Like we saw
Right.
the Pfizer BioNTech one there, even though it got up to 95%, as you said, there was some fluctuation within the results. Like I think you said the low was a 62% efficacy rate. So in one way, you're almost like that one is almost like less premier, like it's not as good as say the Moderna one, which had an efficacy rate of 94.5%, and they didn't really have any fluctuation, at least that was given to us. So in one way, it's almost like you're paying more for the more stable and the more dependable vaccine.
Right. Well, I think that's
Okay,
it for this story. Do you want to move on to the W?
sure. So now we can start the W segment. Our first story today is that a 12-year-old boy was accepted to Georgia Tech. So this guy's name is Caleb Anderson, and I'll just read some quotes from his. He says, "quote I think I'm going to Mars and do more school. I think, and try to get my master's at Georgia Tech, then do an internship with Elon Musk. And then I'll probably get my PhD at MIT, and then I think I'll start working at NASA or SpaceX." End quote. This is obviously a lot of confidence from just a 12-year-old kid who's saying, "Oh, I'll get an internship with Elon Musk." But he's extremely gifted. Like I think by 3 weeks old, he was already speaking, and by 4 months old, he was able to like pick up basic science. And he's just like a really, really smart kid. Obviously, at 12 years old, to be accepted into a pretty good college, that's like a step in itself. So, what would you rate this story, Rohan?
Let's give it a witty or wise, because this kid
Mm-hmm.
is really smart. He's going places, man. You know, he's
Mm-hmm.
probably gonna be my boss someday. Um, who knows? Maybe he'll be the youngest
Mm-hmm.
person to go to Mars, or to even go to space, is what I meant. And the first person to go to Mars. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
This
mean,
he feels very confident. Like, how does he know he's gonna go to MIT and get his internship with Elon Musk? Who knows? Like that feels
I
very.
mean,
I wish I had the confidence to say that. I'm going to MIT, Vinay.
I think at first when I first read it, I was like, oh, this seems like an arrogant kid. But then when I realized he's 12 years old and he's already going to college, I feel like anything is possible for that kid.
Right.
Okay, our next story. This one was kind of a scary one when you go back and look at it. A hammerhead shark was circling a swimmer in Florida, and the swimmer was just on his back, and below him there's a hammerhead shark circling and circling around him. He was just lying on his back, oblivious to even the hammerhead shark below him, and he was even like pointing at the drone camera that he had above. And then at one point, his foot almost actually touched the hammerhead shark. That obviously would have been a very scary moment for him if he did in fact touch the hammerhead shark and the hammerhead shark got mad at him. But how would you rate this story?
Um, I'm gonna give it an unworried. I know, it's kind of stretching the rules with the W words, but it's close enough. Unworried.
Mhm.
Because he's just kind of swimming completely oblivious to his surroundings. And I wish I could like be like in like a big ocean filled with sharks and just not even look down and be completely oblivious to my surroundings.
I don't
I
know
don't
how
know.
he would even stay calm
Yeah,
going in the middle of an ocean because I'm not do any research. He probably had knowledge that there'd be sharks in that place over there.
right.
So I don't know how he was just calm and
Also, how did
collected.
he not see the drone flying above him?
Oh no, he was I for, I forget exactly what, but either it's he who like programmed the drone to follow him, or it was one of his friends who was like controlling the drone above him. So he was even like pointing at the drone and all because he knew that the drone was there for him.
Oh, got it.
Okay, our next story for today was that a deer stole a hunter's gun and then fled into the woods. So this hunter in the Czech Republic was charged by a deer, and then that deer just took the gun within its antlers and then fled into the woods. And then a few hours later, someone who was a half a mile away said that they noticed that there was a deer with a rifle in his antlers. So obviously, this was quite a weird story for me. How would you rate this one?
I'm giving it a whimsical winner because this is
Mm,
something you'd like see in a movie. Like the
yeah.
animal comes to life. It like takes your items. It starts talking to you. No,
Mhm.
that's whimsical, man. That's kind of crazy. So what happened once saw they saw the deer with the gun in its antlers?
Well, at least the story that I read doesn't give an update on what actually happened to the gun. All that happened was that the hunter had to like report to the Czech Republican government that he lost the gun in such a magnificent way.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, whimsical, I guess.
Okay, our final story for today is that there's a Canadian lottery winner, but he didn't even know that he won the jackpot for over a month. So this ticket was just in his house, and he probably was someone that frequented the lottery system. Probably thought that okay, I probably won't win this week. So what did he do? He and then a month later he remembered, oh yeah, I can just cash in this lottery ticket. Let me see how much I got if I got anything. And turns out that he won $75,000 worth of money from just that one from a couple of the lottery tickets that he just had sitting at home. How do you rate this story, Rohan?
Wow. Um, this is a hard one. I think I'm gonna give it a winless because this guy could have won so much money. He could have used it on his rent for the month before, but he didn't cash in the lottery tickets. He went winless, and then a month later he got it, and then he got a big win. So that's
Winless
what I'm
and then a
giving.
big win.
What?
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that concludes our W segment for today. Ron, do you have anything else to say before next week?
No, I guess like just stay focused on any updates with the vaccine. It's going to be really important as we watch which vaccines get past phase 3 efficacy trials. I know that a few of vaccine companies are already made deals with like other countries such as like the US, such as South American countries, and European countries uh, to
Mhm.
distribute if their vaccines are tested to be safe. So it's going to be important to see like how they develop.
Yep. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Bye bye.
What's up, everyone? Rohan here from the RV Show. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to stay updated on all of our new content. Also, if you are looking for past episodes, check out our YouTube playlist.